To miss your favorite shows? No worries. You can now listen to each podcast with Alexa. It's simple and it's free. Just visit afr.net/apps and click Alexa. We're not joking. Welcome to Today's Issues, offering a Christian response to the issues of the day. Here's your host, Tim Wildman, President of the American Family Association.
Good morning, everybody, and welcome to Today's Issues on the American Family Radio Network. Today's Tuesday, January the 23rd, 2024. Hope you're doing well, and thanks for joining us. Live radio show right here across American Family Radio Network. We're here every weekday morning. And let's see, who's with me today? Wesley Wildman. Good morning, Wesley.
Good morning. I sense a spark of enthusiasm, and I think that's because you're back home.
I'm back home, and I just get excited about Tuesdays. I don't know what it is. You know what I'm saying? I can't explain it. I've always been excited about Tuesdays.
But you've been remote for
I have been
some time.
remote for I've been remote for. Well, some people say I've been remote for my whole life. Bada boom, bada boom, bada boom. All right, Ray Pritchard's in Kansas City. How you doing, brother Ray?
Hey, what's up, Tim? How are you this morning?
Doing well. Are you having a good morning so far?
Hey, listen, it's Tuesday, and here in Kansas City, it's above freezing.
Yay.
For the first time in a long time. We're happy to be above freezing.
Any melt going on there?
Yeah. You know, of course, it's a dangerous day because It's melting, but it hasn't all melted quickly. So you got to be careful. It doesn't matter. It's 34 degrees, and we were down at -11 at one point.
So it's a warm day there.
I'm against that.
Chris Woodward, how you doing, brother Chris?
Good morning. I am totally opposed to anything below freezing.
You and me.
You know what's so funny,
That's
Ray, is
yesterday.
yesterday it was I don't know. I guess the high here in Tupelo got to be 45 or something like that yesterday, 48, maybe 50. But the difference between 2020 and what I normally consider cold, my by definition, 45, I mean, that's cool to cold.
Sure.
I know people in Minnesota are laughing right now, but that's how Southerners define cold. Then it is amazing. You do feel like, wow, this is warming up out here, you know? So
T-shirt weather.
You had a spill the other day, didn't you?
Oh, I did. On the front end of all this mess, I was out walking our dog. And, you'd think, Tim, at some point a man would learn, but I evidently am a slow learner here. Walking our dog on the snow and ice in tennis shoes. I have a pair of boots, but I didn't want to take the time to put them on. And a car was coming, and Sadie was pulling me toward the side. I didn't see the ice until I hit it with the full force of my left shoulder. And
oh my word!
Yeah.
Now, did Marlene see this happen, or did you have to?
No, when I came dragging myself back inside,
okay.
And
Did you have to go to the doctor for a
yes, and got the X-rays, and they said we think you might have torn up your rotator cuff. So there goes my pitching career with the Yankees. I mean, I was looking forward to opening day, but
that's not going to happen.
That's not going to happen.
Did you tear your rotator cuff? Or?
Well, I don't know. I guess everybody in Kansas City fell at the same time because they couldn't get me in until next week. So, I've been icing it and wearing the brace and all that stuff.
When you have snow and ice, the hospital's back up, the orthopedics back up. So you're right. Well, but are you in constant pain, or are you?
No.
Okay.
No,
right.
Only when I move or breathe.
Oh, well, there you go.
Other than that,
just don't
I feel
move
pretty good right
you'll
now
be
because
fine.
I'm sitting down.
Oh my word! Well, glad you didn't hurt yourself any worse.
That's right.
Thank you. Than that, and yeah, of course you had that. I don't want to remind everybody. Ray had the bicycle accident.
Yeah.
Again, another didn't see the ice moment there years ago. But that tore you up pretty good right there.
Well, I ended up having 3 surgeries,
yeah.
Broke 3 bones. But this, I got to tell you, the shoulder, whatever it's doing, it actually hurts worse than when I messed up my ankle. So, but there, everything's hooked into the shoulder, right? All those nerves and tendons and ligaments and
So you can't have a fence in your backyard for your dog to go out?
Yeah, we could and we should. Yeah, we could.
I would invest in that.
I think now is the
rather
time
than medical
to do
bills.
Right. I'm with you.
All right. Well, all right. We again thank everybody for joining us. Dr. Frank Turek will be along in a few minutes, and we'll see. I don't know what we're going to talk to Frank about, but we'll find out. And all right, today, Chris, is today the New Hampshire Republican primary?
It is. This is the first in the nation primary in New Hampshire. We have a story about this on AFN.net. I'll share the link here in just a minute. Nikki Haley thinks and says that she is going to do very well in the live free or die state, but former President Donald Trump has something to say about that. Donald Trump predicts a victory there in New Hampshire, and I've got some audio from him as well as Nikki Haley. They've
already started voting, right?
Early voting has been allowed there, and they're also voting right now.
Yeah, because I guess what I'm getting at, they have this tradition of there's a little town there in New Hampshire that votes at 12:01 on election day, and they did that.
Yes.
So Nikki Haley's up 6-0
yes,
right now.
There is a CNN story which I can share. Don't cancel me. But I can
failed.
I can share a CNN story to that effect.
So what are we about to hear now?
We're going to hear Donald Trump predicting a victory for himself in New Hampshire. Clip 1.
And now we have one left. We started off with, really, if you add some Democrats into it, we started off with 13, and now we're down to 2 people. And I think one person will be gone probably tomorrow. And the other one will be gone in November.
The first person you mentioned there is Nikki Haley. The other is Joe Biden.
Yep. So that's today in New Hampshire. Former President Trump favored. And
Are they already showing the results live, or is that going to be later on this
that'll be
after
tonight,
5?
Tonight.
Okay, that's what I thought.
Tonight. New Hampshire, the live free or die state. I read a lot of people saying that New Hampshire, Ray, has really changed because of so many people from Massachusetts, which is a liberal state, moving there. Have you read this?
Well, I have heard that. And look, there are deep red states across the Sun Belt. New Hampshire's never been deep red in the same sense we talk about Georgia, Tennessee, Alabama, Mississippi, South Carolina, now Florida. It's always been more, wouldn't you say, conservative/libertarian, yet that live free or die thing. Now you've got the Massachusetts folks getting out of Boston.
Right.
So is it a liberal state? No, but the needle has moved back toward the center, hasn't it?
Yeah, I would say it's a purple state, in between red and blue, but I think they voted for Biden in 2024. I want to say that.
I'll look it up.
But I think it's fair to say a purple state. They've had Republican governors there before, but we'll see what happens. The pressure is really on former governor of South Carolina, Nikki Haley. For her campaign's sake, she needs to tie him, come close, or win. What do you think?
If she's going to win a state, this is the one to win.
Yeah,
right?
and she's hoping that she wins and gives her some momentum for South Carolina. Her home state. Go ahead.
To your point, Donald Trump did lose to Joe Biden in 2020. Biden won 50
in New Hampshire.
In New Hampshire, Biden had 52.7. Donald Trump had 45.4.
Yeah, so it's a purple state. We'll see what happens there today, and we'll know tonight in New Hampshire's not a very big state, so results should be in fairly quickly, maybe 8 or 9 o'clock Central Time. We will know the results of that race. All right, you're listening to today's issues on American Family Radio. Next story, Chris.
Well, real quick, talking about Nikki Haley, a lot of people have done speculative stories on whether or not she might be running for a VP nomination at this point with Donald Trump to join him on a Trump-Haley ticket. Other people are wondering whether or not she might be vying for a cabinet position. But she did talk about that yesterday in New Hampshire, and I've got audio of her saying, I'm not running for a cabinet position. Clip 2.
I don't want anything else. I'm running to be president. I'm not going to pull out because somebody wants to be coronated. I'm not going to pull out because they think that I shouldn't be there. The political class has never thought I should be here. In South Carolina, in Congress, at the UN, no one has ever thought I should be here. And that's exactly why I should be here.
Well, we'll see. We'll see what happens there. With Nikki Haley. Nikki Haley was governor. I don't know if she was two-time. I want to say she was two-time
Yes,
governor.
she was.
So, I mean, you got to have somebody likes you.
Yeah, that's true.
If you're the two-time governor of a state. So she's two-time governor of the state of South Carolina. And then she served President Trump as secretary to the UN. Is that what the title was?
Former U.S. ambassador to the United Nations.
ambassador, I should say, U.S. ambassador to the United Nations in the Trump administration, and she did a really good job there, if I remember correctly. I think we cheered on a lot of what she said and did there on behalf of our country.
She was responsible for helping Tim Scott get nominated
To the Senate.
Senate.
Oh, she
She
was.
endorsed him.
Yeah, and now he shows no loyalty.
And right, exactly.
Huh?
Yeah, she helped him there. So, and he was a good pick. So,
Oh yeah,
she did well there.
Like Tim Scott for sure.
Okay, so what happens if tonight Mr. Trump wins by 25 or 30 points, which, most people think he's going to win. If he wins big, how does she go on after?
You get beat if she gets beat that bad, I think she'll have to. I would say you got to drop out. But
But a lot of people that look at her as the alternative to from a work. She would be more considered more toward the Rhino side or the more establishment side of the Republican Party.
But you know what? I just don't like this idea of, and I know some people disagree with me, of this pile on to call everybody to not run. Get out. Time to get out. They were telling Governor DeSantis, who did get out, it's time for you to leave. And now they're telling Nikki Haley, get out, it's time for you to leave. Well, you know what? Let her decide.
Sure.
Okay, it's America. People can present their ideas. They can have their campaigns, and may the best man or woman win. But this idea of every day just hounding people to time to get out, why? If Trump is going to win big, let him win big.
Yeah.
Until she decides I don't have a chance anymore, like DeSantis did, and get out. But this every day just hounding people, get out, get out, get out. That's what I keep hearing about Nikki Haley. Go ahead. What were you going to say?
Well, I was just going to say, because we all know that when it's all said and done, whoever the Republican candidate is going to be going up against a Democratic candidate in the, so it's not like she's hurting the Republican Party by staying in, because whoever's going to be elected is who eventually the majority of the party is going to rally behind.
Yeah.
So.
All right, joining us now from North Carolina, I guess he's in North Carolina, is Dr. Frank Turek, host of Cross Examined, heard each weekend here on American Family Radio with the Cross Examined program. Frank, good morning to you.
Hey, if you really want to know the truth, you got to go to the top source in fake news, the Babylon Bee. Here's the headline from yesterday. Despite negative reviews, Trump versus Biden renewed for second season.
I also saw a Babylon Bee with that's a satirical website. It said Governor Ron DeSantis announces he won't run again until he's 75 years old.
That's right. When he's
really
qualified.
Yes, when he's really qualified. He's going to wait till he's 75 to run. Of course, poking fun at the ages of Biden and Trump.
Right.
Obviously was but that Babylon Bee, they just crack me up every day with their satirical.
You rarely read one where you go, I'm not buying. I don't get. No, almost every one is a hit. Almost every one of them is a hit. If you go to
we all know those 10% of us who we don't need to send Babylon Bee articles to, because they text back and say, "What? When did this happen?" Huh?
Yeah. Well, I tell you, they are so close to reality that you don't know whether they're true or not.
That's the genius.
That's right.
Mm-hmm.
That's the genius of it. So you're not on your Comrex today? What are you on, the phone?
No, we're on Opal. We've got some problem with the Comrex board, with the Mackie board. We're trying to figure out. I know. So we've been working on that, but Opal's working.
Our listeners don't know what we're talking about. We're talking inside radio here, but Frank usually sounds better on the sounds like he's in studio with us. Okay, so what did you do in your radio show last week?
Well, last week we had Dr. Brady Blevins on to talk to us about how to evangelize Jehovah's Witnesses and Mormons when they come to your door. And do you guys get Jehovah's Witnesses in Mississippi?
Yes.
Oh, I
You
know.
do.
Well, yeah, but I haven't had anybody come
Been
to
a
my
while.
door and
They took a
ever.
break for COVID, and they just now restarted.
I got you. Okay.
Why do
All
you?
right. Well,
do you-
Doc.
Go ahead.
Oh yeah, yeah. We'll get him here, and what Brady is talking about, and he's teaching actually an online course for us that starts next month called Conversations with the Faith. You know, when somebody comes to your door, I don't know why Christians are afraid of that. I mean, that ought to be what we love to do. You guys want to talk about God and Jesus? Well, come on in, right? I mean, how many Christians don't evangelize? And then when somebody comes to their door to talk about these issues, they hide or ignore them. And you go, wait a minute. This is what you ought to want to do. So we
Right.
talked about some tactics for that. We can get into that if you want a little bit. It's kind of fun.
Ray?
Well, Frank, jump right in there. So here comes, okay, you're there, you're at home. There's a knock at the door, and these days, I'm thinking about life. I mean, from 25, 30 years ago, the knock on the door is probably was more accepted maybe some years ago. There's safety issues and so on. So somebody comes and knocks at your door. You don't know. I mean, it could be these days, could be Amazon, something like that, making a delivery. Well, getting your Walmart groceries which is the way we get our groceries. Okay, you open the door and there's a couple of nice looking people there, and they introduce themselves. It could be Jehovah's Witnesses, it could be Mormons, it could be from some strange religious group down the street that you're only vaguely aware of. How should we respond when they? Should we invite them in? Should we open our Bibles? Give us just a few. I'm trying to get my question out here, Frank. I'm thinking. You see them show up. Walk us through what we do.
Probably the best thing to do, Ray, is to say to them, I would love to talk about this. Right now is not a good time. Could we schedule a time next week, maybe next Saturday at, say, 10 a.m.? Could you guys come back? Because they will. Now, why do you do that? Because you want to be prepared when they come, right? You don't want to be, off, off just trying to figure out what they believe and why they believe it. You want to be prepared. They're prepared to talk to you. You're not prepared in most cases to talk to them. So you say to them, hey, I'd love to talk to you. That would be great. Can you come back at 10, next Saturday or whenever, set up a time. And then over the next week, try and learn if it's a Mormon or a Jehovah's Witness or it's usually one of those two, try and figure out what they believe. Go online. A great website is watchman.org. In fact, that's where Brady Blevins, who's teaching this course for us, is from. And they'll tell you what these different groups believe and then what questions to ask them and how to have a conversation with them. So you want to be prepared. Here's a question that Brady asked a Jehovah's Witness when they came to his door. He's very welcoming, very nice. Said, you guys are Jehovah's Witnesses. I really can't believe I could never be a Jehovah's Witness. And they said, why not? And he said, well, because you're polytheists. And they said, no, we're not. And he said, well, I have your New World Translation. That's the Jehovah's Witness translation. Because for those of you that don't know, Jehovah's Witnesses do not believe Jesus is God. Okay, so Brady said, let's go to John 1:1. So they go to the Gospel of John. And he reads from the New World Translation, the first verse. And here's the verse. In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was a God. And so Brady stopped and he said, who is this about? And they said, Jesus. And he said, you're right. But are you saying Jesus was a God? And they didn't know what to do with that. And if he's a God, is he the true God? Or is he a false God? Because if you're saying he is a God, then you're suggesting there are other gods. That's polytheism. Well, they were kind of shocked at this. For those of you that don't know, in Greek, there's no indefinite or there's no article a. And in the Greek, it doesn't say a God. In fact, the proper translation is in the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. But Jehovah's Witnesses, in order to try and make Jesus not the God, they insert the word a in there indefinite article, and it's not in the Greek. And yet this creates trouble for them because either Jesus is a God according to their own translation, or there are many gods, and he's among many of those. He's one of among many. So it creates all sorts of problems. And if you know this, you can have a fruitful conversation. And so I highly recommend that you just say to those folks, come back next week. People can enroll in the course if they go to crossexamine.org and click on online courses. They'll see conversations with the face. So Brady will help you interact with not only Mormons and Jehovah's Witnesses, but also Muslims.
Yeah, I'm sitting here looking at your website, Wesley. You got it pulled up, Frank's website.
Yes, sir. Frank, this is Wesley here. What would be the biggest difference between what you're going to experience between the Mormon, I know there's a lot, but what the most common between Mormonism and Jehovah when it comes to their
I'll tell you right now, there's no windows on a Jehovah's Witness Kingdom Hall. Which I always have a problem.
I got a problem with that.
I got a problem with that.
That's one reason.
But no, you have a serious question.
Yeah, sure.
Distinguishing what will you mean what how the approach they'll take?
Sure, or objections as a Christian.
Yeah, theological differences. There are probably far more theological difference with Mormons than Jehovah's Witnesses. Jehovah's Witnesses are monotheists. I know this is going to sound odd, but Mormons are polytheists. As man is, God once was. Now, I say that realizing that most Mormons are wonderful people. You'd love to have them as neighbors and all this, right? They're great in the community. But in terms of their doctrine, it's polytheistic. Wesley, they think that if you become a Mormon and a faithful Mormon man, one day you're gonna become a god and get your own planet. And your wife is going to be sort of the goddess, and she's going to be eternally pregnant. I'm not making this up, by the way. It doesn't mean every Mormon believes this, but that is their doctrine.
Right.
And of course, they add the Book of Mormon to the Bible and Doctrines and Covenants and Pearl of Great Price. So there are some significant theological differences.
I'll tell you one thing. When I pass from this earth, last thing I want is to have to manage a planet. You know what I'm saying? That's not a reward.
It's not a reward.
In my view.
It's just more work.
Yeah, it's just more work. Listen, as you said, Frank, and I want to make sure we're respectful of everybody, and you have been, because I know we have LDS listeners.
Yes.
And maybe we have people who are listening to us who go to Kingdom Hall that are Jehovah's Witnesses. And but what you're saying is true. There are deep theological differences between Orthodox Christianity and the LDS teaching and Jehovah's Witnesses. I've had many conversations with Mormon folks, and as you say, they're almost universally very friendly, nice. They're patriotic, but when somebody tells me, well, they want to convert me, but at the same time they tell me we're just like you, talking about Orthodox Christians, I say, well, then why are you trying to convert me?
That's true. Yeah.
Huh?
Right.
Why are you trying to convert me? So, again, the
course.
The course. What is this course you have available at your website?
It's called Conversations with the Faiths, and it's how to respectfully interact with Jehovah's Witnesses, with Muslims, with Mormons, and it's put out by Dr. Brady Blevins. So if people go to crossexamine.org and click on online courses, they'll see it there. It starts February 5th.
And the most exciting thing for me in this conversation is that your enthusiasm to be willing as a Christian we need to be able to be willing and able to have these conversations in a way that's constructive and helpful.
Amen.
Exactly.
Amen. Okay, next time I'd like you to know, Frank, if you could discuss how we can shout down. Shout down those who don't believe like we do. Can we do that?
Hey, Jesus said, "Own the libs." He said it somewhere.
Oh, it's all in
the Bible.
It's in the Greek.
That's right. Own the libs.
I think that's Babylon B Bible right
there. It is.
In the FTV.
Right. All right, we'll be back in a minute. Thanks, Frank.
All right, thanks, guys. See you.
It's my turn.
Here is your host for My Turn,
Don Wildman.
I heard a story the other day. It was a story about how to catch a monkey. Whether it was fact or fiction, I'm not sure. You see, I'm not a very experienced monkey catcher, but I'm sure that it had a good moral point to it. Therefore, I consider it worthy of passing on. Do you know how to catch a monkey? Well, it's a very simple matter according to my source. Get yourself a real strong steel cage about 1 foot square. Now cut a hole in the cage just large enough for the monkey to slip his open hand through. Take that cage and a small block of sugar into the jungle. Secure the cage to the trunk of a tree. Take the small block of sugar and place it just inside the cage so that a monkey can reach in and grab it with his hand. What will happen, my source says, is that the monkey will reach into the cage and grab the block of sugar. Then, with his hand closed around the sugar, he will be unable to slide his hand back through the opening in the cage. My source said the monkey will not turn loose of the sugar, and as long as his hand is clenched around the sugar, he's trapped. You know, greed has captured many a person, but the odd twist is that hardly anyone considers himself greedy. Abe Lincoln used to tell a story about an Illinois farmer he knew who said, "I ain't greedy about land, I only want what joins mine." Well, greed can destroy our humanity as quickly as any other sin. And never forget that's what greed is, sin. We may call it good business or future security, but simply changing the name doesn't correct the fault. One time, the meat packer Phil Armour gave each member of a certain department in his business a suit of clothes. They had the freedom to pick out their own choice and were told to send the bill to Mr. Armour. They were not limited to the amount they could spend, but were given the right by Mr. Armour to use their own judgment. Well, one young man took advantage of the situation and purchased himself a very expensive suit of clothes. When Mr. Armour received the bill, he called the young man in to make sure the bill was correct. He was told, indeed, that it was the correct price. Mr. Armour assured the young man that the bill would be paid. But before the young man returned to his job, Mr. Armour had a piece of wisdom to share with him. This is what he said. "I wish to say to you that I have packed a great many hogs in my time, but I've never dressed one before." One day, on a mountain beside the little Sea of Galilee, a Galilean carpenter gave a crowd some words of life. "Don't store up treasures here on earth where they can erode away or may be stolen. Store them in heaven where they will never lose their value and are safe from thieves." As we all know, greed cannot produce any type of treasures other than materialistic treasures, and materialistic treasures are non-existent in the life beyond this one. You know, I got to thinking about my friend's story on how to catch a monkey. I've come to a conclusion concerning it. Either there are a lot of monkeys around who look like people, or there are a lot of people around who act like monkeys.
This has been My Turn with Don Wildman, a production of the American Family Association.
American Family Studios was started back in 2011 as a way to advance the Christian worldview into an increasingly media-rich culture.
Media is like such a powerful tool to communicate the gospel. I love writing stories, getting in my office, and just thinking, how can we portray this concept of who God's character is? And to get to use the gifts that God has given me is really a joy.
AmericanFamilyStudios.net.
Search me, God, and know my heart. Test me and know my anxious thoughts. See if there is any offensive way in me, and lead me in the way of everlasting. Psalm 139, 23 through 24.
American Family Radio. This is today's issues. Email your comments to comments@afr.net. Past broadcasts of today's issues are available for listening and viewing in the archive at afr.net. Now, back to more of today's issues.
Hey, welcome back to today's issues on the American Family Radio Network. Thanks for listening to AFR. And Wesley Wildman is with us on Tuesdays and Wednesdays. And Ray Pritchard's with us, and Ray's in Kansas City. And Chris Woodward's our newsman today. And I'm Tim Wildman, and thanks for listening to AFR. You want to send us an email, the address is comments@afr.net, comments@afr.net. Hey, if you want to go with us on one of our tours this year, we're going in June and September. And we'd love to have you. It's going to be a lot of fun. We're going to see a lot of interesting things, and our American history will be brought to light with Stephen McDowell of the Providence Foundation. So we're going to Williamsburg, Jamestown, and Yorktown on one trip, and then we're going to Washington, D.C., see all the sites of our nation's capital, and George Washington's Mount Vernon. Again, those are in June and September. Since we started doing this over 20 years ago, we've taken over 5,000 people. And so we have a lot of experience in this. And most of them I can remember had good attitudes the whole trip. And
why don't you just share with us one that didn't?
One that didn't? I don't like to remember those.
Can't believe Mount Vernon doesn't have air conditioning.
Right.
That's right.
Yeah. Hey, but if you want to go with us, all you need to do, you need the dates, the cost, the itinerary, everything is at spiritualheritagetours.com. Spiritualheritagetours.com. I did check the other day. I think we're about halfway full with at least our June trips. September's it was really popular last year, so we'll see what happens. Both months are good to go. Generally nice weather during those months. All right, you're listening to today's issues. So, Wesley, I said unto thee. I'm going to go King James
on me.
King
there
James
we go.
today. I said unto thee.
I can handle it.
Last week, I said, you're the new guy on the block here on the show, and I want you to bring us a topic to discuss. One topic on Tuesday and one topic on Wednesday, and your topic today is what?
Trying to hold a sneeze in right now.
Are you really? Well, there's your sneeze button.
Live radio.
It doesn't stop for you. Huh? You want us to?
No, we're good.
Pray over you.
King James style.
King James.
There's a style of prayer for King James.
Yes.
Hey, what I would like to talk about today is we're in January, halfway through, going into as we begin a new year here. Just to remind everybody the importance of attending church on a weekly basis, and obviously in the New Testament, the Bible reminds us over and over again the importance of the gathering of believers. It says, "Don't forsake the gathering of believers." In Acts, you see when they meet together for church that they teach God's word, they fellowship with each other, they do worship together. That would be hymns and songs and worship, and then they even break bread together. So there's a time where they spent time fellowshipping over food, which we think about when we've done events before, and it's amazing how good food and it can really break the ice or begin fellowshipping. So, so
don't have lousy food.
Don't have lousy food
at your church gathering.
That's right.
Okay.
That's a big part of having someone come back.
Right.
But on a serious note, the importance of, and the reason I wanted to bring that topic up is because I understand. Well, let me back up. I'm surprised at times how many good people, many good Christians, don't attend church for different reasons, and some of them are because they have made other. It's one of those things. Once you get out of the habit of it, it's easy to make excuses and find other things that are good things to do. Also, too, some people will say they've been hurt by church members. And that's a real thing. People can be hurt by church. But I could not think of, and just looking at the scriptures, I understand there's a season of maybe you're transitioning from one church to the next. Maybe you've moved. Maybe there are other reasons why.
But you're talking about just flat not going to church.
Flat not going to church, yeah. There's so many, both spirit. One, it's a commandment. Number two, there are a lot of spiritual benefits that you get. One of the things we teach our children is that the reasons why we're going to church. So Bennett's old enough now, he's 8 years old. I'll ask him often, a couple times a month, why are we going to church today? There's other things we could be doing, and I'll list off some fun things. But I've taught him, and the younger ones are picking up on it. The primary reasons we go to church is, one, to learn about God, and number two, to fellowship with believers. Now, from there, we can learn a lot more, and we can teach more as they get older. But I want them to understand we're going to learn about God, but also, too, to be around other Christian believers and to be around other Christians and to see that they are prioritizing a certain portion of their week to learning about God, being around other believers. Another thing, and Ray, you can comment on this because your ministry has had the opportunity to provide Christian apologetics and training across the world. But we also have to remember, and I want to take this time to remind us that another reason we got to go to church is because you look across the world, and many places, many countries, it is not as you're having to go underground to do the things that we do publicly here. And so,
well, like China, for example, you and Ray went to China several years ago, decade or so ago.
Mm-hmm.
You
India,
went with Ray.
I went with Ray to China. We worked, provided some content.
You have an
there.
underground church over there.
Mm-hmm. Yes, sir.
So, Ray, talk about that. First of all, Wesley's topic today, the importance of church for the Christian.
Well, it's hugely important. And one thing hasn't been mentioned yet is what the pandemic did to us.
Sure.
Because once the churches shut down, and almost every church did for at least a short period of time, let's face it, guys, it was kind of fun. Sure. You had your slippers, you had your bathrobe, had your cup of coffee, had a biscuit,
there you
had
go.
a Danish.
That was your Sunday best.
That's your Sunday best.
Yeah.
You crank back the recliner, and you could bring it up on your iPad. You could watch church, and there's a whole new experience.
Mm-hmm.
I think one thing that just one of the unintended consequences of that, we discovered not everybody was as committed to church as we thought they were.
Right.
Because once church opened up, it's not like 100% of the people came back. It took a long time.
Oh, you think the pandemic permanently hurt? Well, I don't know if permanently is a good word, but at least it hurt church attendance.
It radically shifted the playing field, didn't it? Because now, even your small churches of 30 or 40 or 50 people, almost every church now has an online presence.
That's right.
Which one thing the pandemic, and I thank God for that, because we used to, Wesley, in my day, back in the last century, we used to talk about the shut-ins. And we all understood that people who physically were unable to come to church, and now through the online
it should be used as an alternative for those situations, not a permanent use. Go ahead, Ray.
That's exactly right. So I'm only just commenting on what the pandemic has changed our mindset a little bit. So I will say this, Wesley, you may remember when we were in China, and this was a decade ago or so, you may remember we got to a certain city, and people who had been listening to the Keep Believing radio broadcast, some of them had been on buses for 8 or 9 hours coming in just to meet with us. And it's worse now, but even then 10 years ago, we couldn't go to the room altogether. They sent the people in one at a time, and then you went in, and then I went in, because it just wasn't safe. That's so
why you mean like the communist government was surveilling you?
That's right. Exactly. And that was 10 years ago, exactly the way. And their oversight, their oppression of the church has gotten infinitely worse in the last decade. But that is the common experience of Christians in China, to some extent in India, and across many of the Muslim countries. And yet we in the West take it so much for granted. If we have the slightest excuse, we don't go.
That's right.
If our feelings are hurt, we don't go. But let me say this. I thank God for online church. It's not the same.
Right.
It's not the same as being there in the pew, sitting in the chairs, singing the songs, talking to your friends, being greeted with a hug, seeing somebody who needs encouragement, and you go up and you pray for them. Mm-hmm. There is nothing online that can replace the importance and the power of Christians actually meeting together for worship. So, Wesley, bravo to you for bringing this up.
And I appreciate that, Ray. And just to make my final points about the importance and why we need to be attending church on a weekly basis is because to what you're saying, 70% of communication is nonverbal, which means it's facial expressions, physical touch, a word of encouragement, which that would be verbal. But there's a lot of things that you get, tone of voice, things like that, the things that you don't get otherwise. So going to church, instead of going down the list of reasons, instead of going over the excuses why many people do, which we could do another day, and we could cover that.
Why they don't?
Why many people don't attend church. Instead of going over those today, what I want to do is tell you the benefits you get from church, and this is just a few. You get encouragement. We all need that from week to week, which is a lot of the times biblical and Christian encouragement, which you're going to get at church. Also, too, you get accountability, and most importantly, you get that family friendship, that fellowship that you wouldn't otherwise get in many places where you may work or where you may spend most of your week. So those are some really good things. Obviously, your kids
well,
need to be
if I can use a sports metaphor here, you have a sports team. They practice together.
Mm-hmm.
They go to the locker room together.
Yeah.
They travel together. They go to team meetings.
That's right.
So I'm saying it's a team effort. And they encourage and edify one another, as you're saying here. Now, so it's the same thing with the body of Christ. Now you're saying, though, what Bible verse did you cite?
There's a couple
which admonishes this.
Hebrews chapter 10, verses 24 through 25 teaches us not to forsake the gathering, and then it talks about the benefits of going. And then Acts chapter 2, verses 42, you'll see the beginning of the New Testament church and how they operated in their church and the things they did, which they taught the scriptures, they fellowshiped together, they worshiped together in music or in hymns and singing and song, and they also broke bread together. That's how the New Testament, and you see that in many churches today.
Yeah. Ray, last word on this topic?
Hebrews 10 says, as you see the day approaching. I take it that means as you understand the times, you understand this world isn't going to last forever. If you really believe, as we do, we're living in the last days. Get up off the couch, friends. Put on your clothes, grab your Bible, head to the church, because it's a testimony that this world is not the only world. The real world is yet to come when Jesus comes again. So we'll be better off, and we'll be a tremendous testimony by meeting together. And you know what? How many times have we all dragged into church, and it's happened to me, discouraged, or my mind is divided, or I'm going in 1,000 different directions.
Yep.
And the music and the singing and the fellowship and the preaching of the word, and I go out and I am ready to face the day.
Amen.
So
bingo.
Let's go to church, friends. It's
Amen.
good for us.
Amen. You're listening to Good Topic, Wesley.
Appreciate it.
You know what the topic is tomorrow?
Tomorrow will be a news story. I got a good one. I can't tell you what it is. You have to come back tomorrow.
All right. Well, you're listening to Today's Issues on the American Family Radio Network. Back to the news desk with Newsman Chris.
Yes, something the church really needs to do more of is get into the issues involving gender and sexuality. And I say that based on what I'm about to share on our Facebook page for Today's Issues. There's a Daily Mail article out, and this is the headline: How rates of gender dysphoria have soared in every state except one since 2018, with children now making up 1 in 5 diagnoses. I'm reading from the beginning of the article. It says, rates of gender dysphoria have soared in every state, and the average age at which patients are diagnosed is also younger. Children under 18 now make up a fifth of all new cases each year. We have talked about this a long time on this program, and this is more evidence.
You know, this used to be, what we're talking about here, for folks, when we say gender dysphoria, is we have children and young adults, but children that are confused about whether they're a boy or girl. Mm-hmm. That's what we're talking about here. And this is a growing problem. Just last night, I had somebody, a family member of mine, text me and said, I know somebody personally who needs help. Their daughter is going through that. She's confused and about her, whether she's a boy or a girl. So this family member was saying, in his image, I need to know where they can watch that. That's our documentary that's helped thousands of people in this way. We'll tell you how to look at that in just a moment. But what I'm saying to you is, and you know somebody too, don't you?
I do.
And Ed knows somebody. I mean, this is Ray.
We're not talking, just for clarification, we're not talking about those that are of the same sex that think they're gay or lesbian. We're talking about young kids that think they're a different gender.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. Ray, you familiar with? You've been following this too, haven't you?
Well, look, I'm thinking of a particular person, and without going any further, somebody very close to our family, a young person who sat under my ministry and has been tricked by the devil into thinking they are not the gender or the sex that God created them to be. And still, as of I'm speaking right now, still deep in that moral darkness, a young person who has followed my ministry is a friend of mine, but deeply trapped. And I think, friends, because of the cultural pressure, it's a lot closer to all of us right now than we like to think. So, Tim, this isn't at all theoretical to me. I think it's not theoretical to most Christians now. We understand this is happening all around us.
Okay, I'm going to tell you my opinion on this, and I think I'm right. Of course, rarely do I share my opinion, and I think I'm wrong, right? See what I did there?
Right.
Right, wrong, right? The reason we're experiencing this boom in gender dysphoria are kids confused about whether they're a boy or a girl. This never used to be a problem. It wasn't a problem. Yeah, you had your outliers. You had your occasional person who you found out they were a cross-dresser or something like that. Mm-hmm. But
adults.
Huh?
You're talking about adults at one.
Yeah, for the most part.
Even the outliers, adults.
The outliers. The what now? What is
You're saying that even years ago when you heard about an outlier, the outlier was an adult, not
it was
kid.
usually a man who was caught dressing like a woman. Mm-hmm. That's what I'm saying. But I'm talking about these numbers of these kids that are confused. I'm gonna tell you why it is. Primarily, it's pop culture. Mm-hmm. It's movies. It's TV. It's the entertainment industry. Mm-hmm. It's pop culture. So kids are being told today, this is cool. This is vogue. This is trendy. And so kids who wouldn't have otherwise thought about this in a million years see it happening around. They see it on some movie stars say, they don't know. I'm just saying they're being influenced to think in this direction. And as Ray said, the spiritual dynamic here, of course, is we understand this as Christians. This is just another assault on the family in America by the devil, and it's Ray is. Well, I tell you what. First of all, people say, "Well, do you have anything that can help me understand?"
Resource,
and we do. We do. I would say you can see a pastor or a Christian counselor. You can start there, but you need to go watch this film, folks. It's free that we produced. What is it, Wesley?
It's called In His Image. We've taken the documentary In His Image.
Excuse me, where on the internet can you go watch it?
Go to our stream. You go to
His Image Movie.
Yeah, I would go to inhisimagemovie.com.
.com.
We'll confirm that here in just a second while you're looking that up. inhisimage.movie.com, I believe, is the website. It's completely for free. You can also go to our resource center and get DVDs in hand that you can pass out. We've had hundreds of our supporters do that as well, pass out the actual hard copy DVD.
Can you put the link on our Facebook page? Okay, folks, here's the website just real quickly. It's free to watch, okay? We produce this at AFA, and we distribute it at AFR. It's called inhisimage.movie. Even if you don't have anybody that you know that's facing this issue, this will help you understand it but it's called InHisImage.movie. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Oh, that's fine. I was also going to add, we've taken the movie, we've put it up on YouTube, and within YouTube, we have broken it down into 6, 8, 10 minutes, maybe 12-minute sections based on the topic and the question that's being asked or being covered by trained Christian apologetics. So if you go to the YouTube link, which Chris Woodward is putting up as well, where are you putting it up?
It's on the Facebook page itself, but also in the comments for this program.
That link to the YouTube channel breaks it down into smaller bites, and so you can go look up the question that you may have, or that you, in this case, that this particular topic is discussed there, and you can go straight there. So the main point to what you're saying is that we don't have to. Well, one, we can't be naive or unprepared when this comes up, but number two, there is good Christian counsel on this topic, and we don't have to concede ground here or just shake our head and nod when people are going through this, because we have a good answer.
Yeah.
In his image.
So I think more Christian counselors are learning how to. They're facing this issue.
Well, and backing up to your point about entertainment, pop culture, they would push it, but now they're making you question that everything that they do. A lot of what they do on this topic is constantly questioning: are you made that way? Or let's think of they're making young kids question their gender identity at such a young age, in a way that's very deceptive and very misleading. As if that's even used to, that wasn't even a question negotiable.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
This never was an issue till 5 years ago, really.
Right.
And now it's exploding. It's not because this has been latent in people since forever.
That's right.
For generations past. No, it never was an issue.
Well, they're seizing the opportunity too.
But because it's only become trendy. I'm telling you, it's
Yeah,
cool.
it is.
It's cool to be a trans.
Mm-hmm.
Now everybody, the kids, they slap each other on the back, say "good for you," and they're not really. They're not.
Not only is it cool to be trans, it's not cool to speak against it.
Right.
It's not cool to raise your hand and object to something the teacher is saying, which is, I think, part of the job we got to do as Christians.
Amen.
Is equip our young people to stand up and be counted, because it is not going to be easy to stand against the flood of transgender nonsense and evil satanic propaganda.
Amen.
But it is, they have a hold on the educational establishment. I'm talking about the other side, and they have a hold on the media.
Yeah.
So we're going to have some Christian teachers to stand up, and God bless those who have, and students who take a stand also.
Also, I would have more respect. Don't get me wrong. It's morally wrong to act out in a way that goes against how God created you. But I would have more respect for these people if they would say, "I am a male who feels like a girl." All right.
Mm-hmm.
All right. I guess maybe I can understand that.
That's a literally true statement.
That's
right?
a literally true statement. I am a male, but I feel like I'm a female. Okay, let's start with this. We can address that or talk about that. But this psychological warfare that the left is putting on us to say, no, you got to call a man who has male genitalia, and you got to call him a girl.
Right.
That's psychotic, and we need to call that out for what it is, and challenge them on that.
Psychotic's a good word. It means a break with reality, because if you're a man, that's what you are, made by God, and to deny that truly is spiritual psychosis.
Okay, I would ask these same people, so you're saying I can say I'm Mexican?
Right. Yeah.
I'm a white guy from Mississippi, but I can claim that I'm a Mexican because I feel like it, and you're going to accept that as reality. No, you're not.
No.
You're going to say, no, you may be a white guy who likes
or feels
like a Mexican,
or likes
but you're not a Mexican.
No.
We'll be back momentarily.
The views and opinions expressed in this broadcast may not necessarily reflect those of the American Family Association or American Family Radio.
Faith, family, freedom. American Family Radio.
Chatting,
Laughing.
blogging, hashing it out.
Expression.
Let's talk. The Stand, a blog for religious freedom, to promote Christian values and to expose attacks on the American family. The Stand is a wall of defense and a beacon of light to those in danger. Lift your voice. Visit afa.net/The Stand. That's afa.net/The Stand.
This is American Family Radio, a listener-supported ministry of the American Family Association.
American Family News, I'm Rusty Pugh. Today is the first-in-the-nation primary for the 2024 presidential election. Alexis McAdams reports from Nashua, New Hampshire.
The gloves have been off here in the Granite State, and it is go time here in the first-in-the-nation primary, and people are excited about it. People are trickling in here at this polling location in Nashua, New Hampshire. This comes as Nikki Haley is out on the ground. Nikki Haley believes she can win over the undeclared voters, which makes up the largest voting population in the state. But Trump's events have been much different, and so is his tone, at least last night. He's had big crowds and a party-like atmosphere. He's not focusing in on Nikki Haley, really, but the general election.
While most Senate Republicans have endorsed former President Donald Trump, some GOP leaders are voicing concerns about Trump being the nominee, fearing it could prevent Republicans from winning Senate seats in November. Aisha Hosni explains.
Some Senate Republicans, privately at least, are concerned about what a Donald Trump top of the ticket would mean for the Senate, whether they would be able to flip it this November. And they point back to the midterms and what happened then with those Trump-endorsed candidates. Now, worth noting here is that key members of GOP leadership, we are talking about Senate Minority Leader Mitch McConnell, also Whip John Thune, they are still neutral. They have not endorsed Trump, as well as senior GOP Senator John Cornyn has also not endorsed Trump yet. But NRSC Chair Steve Daines is publicly now calling for everyone in the Senate to unite behind the former president.
Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin, who is recovering from a hospitalization for prostate cancer treatment, is attending a meeting on Ukraine's military needs virtually from his house. The Defense Secretary says he believes that if Russia takes down Ukraine, they will not stop there.
If we lose our nerve, if we flinch, if we fail to deter other would-be aggressors, we will only invite even more bloodshed and more chaos. So a sovereign and secure Ukraine is critical to global security.
A California congressman is practicing a religion but doesn't even know it. Charlie Butts explains.
California Congressman Ted Lieu is a Democrat and avid supporter of abortion, killing an innocent baby in the womb. But he has introduced a bill in the House to ban the sale and use of glue traps. Those are used to trap mice and rats, but Lieu contends they are inhumane. AFN spoke with Brian Johnston of the California Pro-Life Council, who says Lieu reflects the contemporary religious view that humans are insignificant when compared to animals.
This religious view is the worship of nature and worshiping the created thing, which is a very old religion. It's a form of paganism, Wicca. It's a form of animism, and it's become popular.
He says common sense reveals animals are not to be elevated to a status above human beings who are created in God's image.
This is a very, very dangerous religion to implement into our laws, because the purpose of our laws is first to protect innocent human lives. That's the purpose of human laws.
Inhumane to kill rats with glue traps? Pro-life groups would say the congressman needs to reflect on innocent human beings in the womb that are sucked into pieces by a machine or torn apart limb by limb until they bleed to death in an abortion. I'm Charlie Butts.
Drivers in Chicago are reporting a record number of car thefts, even as the arrest rate hit an all-time low. Kelly Saberi has more from the Windy City.
Of the over 29,000 reported auto thefts, only 754 of those arrests were made, a record low rate of about 2.6%. Some say one of the main reasons for this is a police shortage. There are about 1,500 less sworn police officers working right now than there were 5 years ago in the city. This is emboldening some thieves to attempt even more car thefts. And in turn, auto thefts were up around 36% since 2022.
American Family News is online at afn.net and download the AFN mobile app. I'm Rusty Pugh.
So for God to speak is for God to engage in self-revelation. We only know God because God has condescended to speak to us.
The God Who Speaks is a 90-minute documentary that answers many of the common objections about the Bible's reliability. The film equips believers to confidently base their lives on the power of God's Word. It's available at streaming.afa.net. Today's Issues continues on AFR with your host, Tim Wildman, president of the American Family Association.
Hey, welcome back, everybody, to Today's Issues on the American Family Radio Network. Today's Issues is the name of the show. Thanks for listening. I'm Tim with Wesley Wildman and Ray Pritchard, raised in Kansas City. We're in Tupelo, and in Tupelo with us is our good friend Steve Jordahl. Good morning.
Good morning, everybody.
Steve Paisley.
Yeah, I was going to have to catch you on that one. That was close.
Give Steve his formal introduction.
That's right. That's right. It's not the show unless I'm. Did you guys end up getting the correct URL for the In His Image movie?
We got it.
You did?
Finally got it, yes. And we got it in both that link and the YouTube.
Okay. Did you hear what we were talking about?
I did, but I left before you guys found it. Okay. In His Image.movie.
I want to continue on this for just a moment because I remembered a example that Ed Battagliano uses, original with him as far as I know, that is a good way to explain this. We were talking, folks, about a news story yesterday that this gender dysphoria, this confusion among children about whether they're a boy or a girl, is sweeping the country, and it's terrible, and it's happening. A lot of you listening right now, you know families that are dealing with this, and I had a family member last night, not an immediate family member of mine, contact me and say, "How can I help this person? I have a friend. Their daughter's doing this. They're saying she's a boy. How can I help her? So how can I help her? She's brokenhearted." And so, but we were talking about the fact that a lot of people are pushing this. They just flat deny reality. Okay, if you want to talk about this issue, and as I said, if you want to say this is a male who feels like they're a girl, that's, as Ray said, that's scientifically accurate, right, Ray?
That's just a statement of reality.
Okay, that's a statement of reality.
Of feeling.
Yeah, but don't tell me that a girl is a boy because they feel like they are. That is not scientific. That is not true. That is, you're basing on feelings. And here's the way Ed describes it on this. Ed said, we should no more accept that than we do accept anorexia. And here's what he says. We don't tell, especially a young lady who's 5'6", 75 pounds, and she says she's fat, we don't affirm her. We don't say, you know what, you're right. If you feel like you're fat, you're fat. And no, we say, you know what, that's not reality. You're not fat. In fact, you're skin and bones, and we're going to have to change this behavior or you're going to get sick and potentially die.
And at some point in there, we go, hey, your feeling is not matching reality. Or we're saying that you've been deceived here, or here's where you've been tricked, or this is what you need to avoid, you know.
So we don't tell people who are experiencing anorexia, we don't clap our hands and affirm them.
No.
Who say that they're fat and they're overeating. No, we tell them the truth.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, we stand on the truth. So that's scientific. That is the truth. These people who say I believe in science and then they want to call a girl a boy because a girl says I feel like it today. Right. Well, you may feel differently tomorrow. Okay.
Yes.
You may feel differently tomorrow. You may swap back. That doesn't mean you were a girl.
Right.
Okay. So it's just this idea that we have to talk about things as if they aren't, or things as if, you know what I'm saying?
I know.
That's bizarro.
Yeah.
To me. Go ahead, Steve.
The whole issue is that the people have made a division. The woke people left has made a division between sex and gender. They've created a whole new category. This is just a new belief system. It's not. There's no science to it. It's just we're going to say that gender is fluid, and the increases. Every state in the union except for South Dakota has had increases. Most of them in triple digits.
You're citing the news story that we're basing this conversation on.
Right.
Did we post that? So at our Facebook page, our Today's Issues Facebook
It's
page.
not Facebook page.
No, right.
No.
Don't say Facebook. It's
Yes.
Facebook page.
Our Today's Issues Facebook page we posted this story that we're talking about.
So the fact that this has risen in the last 5 years, like to this extent, means that it is socially conditioned. Two things. It's socially conditioned. People weren't dysphoric 10 years ago. Now all of a sudden everybody is. So it's not like you're born all of a sudden we're breeding different kinds of people with, we're the same DNA as always has been.
Sure.
So it's socially constructed. And then there's also a spiritual element. I believe firmly that there's a demonic, God is, Satan is called the prince of the power of the air, and he has influence over this world, and he has influence of people in this world. And the fact that we're seeing an explosion in something that's so anti-God, that's so affronting to the nature of God, tells me that this is a spiritual problem as well.
Absolutely.
And is this so, Ray?
Well, look, everything you said, Steve's 100% true. Satan is the god of this world. He's the god of the air. There's evil let loose. And I think I don't know how many times we come back to Romans 1, but it does seem like almost every week we're talking about Romans 1. This is what happens when a society turns away from God. In the end, it's not just a descent into immorality, it's a descent into madness, a descent into irrationality, a descent into the denial of basic reality itself. Friends, that's where we are today.
Yeah. All right, Steve, next topic.
All right. Well, we keep talking. The Democrats have said and made a big deal about the overturned Roe v. Wade and said they're going to run on this in 2024. It's abortion all the way. We are the pro-abortion party. I saw 4 or 5 different posts from Joe Biden this morning on my Twitter feed saying, look, this is Donald Trump. He's the one that you got to blame for overturning Roe versus Wade. My body, my choice. So they are making a big deal about this. But do you know what the American people are concerned about? According to a Harvard Harris poll, 35% of responders list immigration as their paramount concern. 32% think inflation is. Those have just recently switched places.
In that order?
In that order.
Okay.
35 immigration, 32% inflation, and then down the line,
you're talking about the general public, the general American public, as they list issues that they're on their minds as they get ready to vote.
What's their top concern?
Or what now?
First is immigration. Second is inflation. Third is economy and jobs. Fourth is crime and drugs, and healthcare. That might be healthcare, could be abortion. 16% the national security deficit. 14% respond to corruption and the environment were named.
Okay. Well, that's interesting that
abortion's not on the list.
That immigration has moved ahead of inflation, right? Is that what you're saying?
Immigration has moved ahead of inflation.
Why
I
do you
mean,
think
that sounds like a survey sponsored by the Republican Party.
I know, right?
Talk about teeing it up.
Yeah.
We're living in a moment when, quote, conservative issues are on the minds of people. So if I was Mr. Trump, I'd go down there and have a couple of huge rallies right there on the border and say, elect me, and we're going to secure the border again. These are the top 3 or 4 you mentioned, Steve. These are ready-made for a Republican candidate.
Yep.
Yeah, I'm on the record saying this, and I'll stand by this. I said this on Walker's program.
Are you going to stand by it?
Stand right beside. I'm gonna stand on top of it.
Okay, you stay on top of it.
I stated this on the core on Walker Wildman's radio program on AFR.
Name dropper.
2 or 3 weeks ago, and that's this: President Biden has several things that go 180-degree difference in his worldview and his agenda and what he's been able to accomplish while he's been in the White House. But by far, the number one thing that's by far the worst thing that he will be remembered for when this is all said and done, meaning whether he's elected again and he serves 4 more years or not, whenever he's out of the White House, you'll look back and the number one thing that he's done, worst thing that he's done, is the border. The border meaning
decimating
the border, showing absolutely he's not. You hear you've seen the analogy where someone's down there. I'm working on it,
right?
And then they're not. But we're trying, but we're not. No, he's not even pretending to try.
Right.
And
Republicans are impeaching his director,
Mayorkas,
of Homeland Security,
and deservedly so
over this issue.
Yeah, and a couple things along those lines. As millions of people, I don't know what the number is now. Millions of people now have flooded into our country illegally. We don't know who they are. But they're here now, and Biden has busted them, and got them, put them on airplanes, and they've just gone all over the country. Now people say, well, so the Republican governors have put them on buses. Well, the Republican governors in Texas in particular, Arizona, before they changed Republican and Democrat, but the people were being held at gunpoint. They were getting on the buses going to New York City and Chicago and other places because they wanted to go there, because either they had family there or they knew that those big cities would take care of them because they have to by law. So that was the reasons they were going to these big cities. But now even John Fetterman, the senator from Pennsylvania, who is a Democrat,
yep,
he's making a big issue of this. Surprisingly, I didn't know, but he's making a big issue of this too. Democrat mayors are. So and you know it's feeding down to the grassroots, because a lot of people who are Democrats are seeing the real life results of letting people just flood into our country without any control whatsoever, and it's disrupting their lives and their communities. I read the other day where the Denver hospital is overrun. They're overrun because they've got too many people here illegally that they're having to take care of in the emergency rooms and things of that nature.
And it was in New York where they're telling kids for a couple of days, maybe a week, you can't go to school because we're having to use your school.
Mm-hmm.
I have to look. I think that was public school.
Yeah,
they were using public schools for hosting.
Yeah. So the point is, this is going to be a big issue.
There you go.
In the upcoming elections in November, Republicans or Democrats. I wonder if the Democrats, like Fetterman, will begin to change their open borders policy.
Well, they have to, at least well, I'm not going to give them election advice, but just keep on going down the abortion road. Let's see how far that gets you.
Sure.
I think that was a hot topic in the midterm elections.
I think it did. It affected 2022.
Yeah, and the Democrats have a way of framing that issue that gets them a lot of votes, the abortion issue. But I think as time goes on here, that's going to fade. Sure. As this survey is showing as a top issue for.
And the reason is it's going back to the states.
Right.
And so once
it's not a federal issue any longer. It's a state issue. So, and that's what Roe versus Wade, the overturning of Roe versus Wade did, is sent the issue of abortion regulation back to the states. So,
yeah, they're gonna the Democratic
but the Democrats,
Party.
yeah, the Democrats just want to scare people, like they just want to scare people to say if you vote Republicans in, they're going to, it's Handmaid's Tale. They're going to take away every right. They're gonna make sure birth control is illegal. I mean, they just try to scare the mess out of people on that issue. But I don't think it's going to work.
I don't think so either.
Everything that they do is about division or fear.
Yeah.
Think about any policy you want, whether it's the global warming and the electric cars. You're going to make you buy an electric car, and the system or electrical system can't handle it. Any policy you want, it's about the whole woke is nothing but playing on people's fear and dividing them.
Next story.
All right. We've been talking to Dean Michelle Bachman, Dean of at Regent University, and she has been warning the world about the WHO, which some people refer to as the WHO, but then I'm always thinking about the rock band when they say that.
But we're talking about the World Health
Organization, and they have decided that they want to coordinate international responses to a pandemic. Now, they're not sure. They're now talking about a pandemic. They're calling it Disease X, as yet unknown Disease X. And they say that this Disease X could be 20 times deadlier than COVID. So they don't know what it is, but all of a sudden it's 20 times deadlier. And they're saying every nation has to sign on to this treaty so that we can coordinate your response. The WHO is saying we will shut your economy down. We will tell you have to wear masks. We will do this because we are going to stop this from becoming a worldwide pandemic. And
too soon.
This has come up again because all the people, the movers and shakers of the world, just met at Davos, the World Economic Forum, and this was a big topic of conversation there. There's some calendar dates that they want to hit. They want to get there's a May deadline for people to sign up for this for whatever reason, and they're pushing this hard. We have an administration who's likely to buy into it.
Well, we've seen we know the story of the boy that cried wolf, and we know how that goes. If they try to pull a pandemic, shut the economy down, wear masks, get in line for vaccines, mandate, or you're fired. And they most of the firing was done in government jobs, but there were some in public jobs. But if you start down the route that we did, the lockdowns and the shutdowns for 2020, 2021, and even carried over in some places to 2022, vaccine mandates, if that's the route that they're going to take, they should have waited about 10 years to try it again, because the people in this country that lived through that, they're not
going to do it again.
They're not going to do it again. And I'm talking about a majority of people by far. I'm not talking about party lines here.
I agree with you if it's a COVID-like thing.
Yeah, COVID-like.
I don't know if they're Ray. You can comment here, but I don't trust the World Health Organization, and I don't. They covered for China on COVID.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
We know that. They were basically out in the open with that. So their credibility is pretty well shot.
That's right.
Quite frankly, just like the CDC's is.
Isn't it coincidental? They want to do this in a national campaign year, an election year.
That's a good point.
Now, the World Health Organization is saying that sometime in the future, I don't know when it is, there will be a pandemic that will be worse than COVID. This is what they're saying, right? And okay, let's take the politics out of it and their worldview out of it.
Sure.
Okay, let's just take their word. Let's just assume that they're honest brokers.
Okay.
What they're saying is that they want the world to be ready for this, and the way we can be ready for it is if everybody's in agreement on the regulations, the stipulations, the rules to impose on their own people should this pandemic hit. Is that what you're saying?
That's not it. Actually,
that's not it?
The treaty
Okay.
says that the CDC, or the WHO, I'm sorry, the WHO is who is driving that bus. It's not that the WHO
Okay,
is going to
they're asking every country to sign on to relinquishing their sovereignty to the WHO in the name of stopping this.
That's what they're doing.
This new disease that's yet to happen, right? That's what
global control, right? Global control of the response to disease X.
Yeah, well, the answer to that is big fat no.
No,
that's not happening.
And I'm not fat shaming. Okay.
No, that's not happening.
Just an expression.
You say that.
A big fat no. No, Steve, we don't receive that.
All right.
We don't.
I do not receive that from you.
We're charismatic. We're not receiving that at all.
Right.
Okay.
So an Obama judge, her name is Wendy Beadlestone of the Eastern District of Pennsylvania, has ruled that CRT training at some colleges and universities can violate federal law. A professor.
What's CRT training for those who don't know?
CRT is
critical race theory,
which says is this the whole worldview where everything?
It's here. I'll just synopsize. You want me to synopsize the worldview for you?
Yes.
White man evil.
Yeah, there you go.
That's their mission statement.
CRT equals white man evil.
It is. It's all the woke stuff that you want.
Well,
And-
white women too, I guess.
Well,
Really
a white professor sued a college in Pennsylvania saying he was traumatized by this when he was told that white teachers are the problem, when he was told that the white staff needed to hold their breath longer than people of color to feel the pain that George Floyd endured. This was in an exercise.
This is nauseating stuff.
All employees calling on white people to feel
Where is
terrible.
this?
This is Pennsylvania College, Penn State Abington.
Penn State University system?
Well, yes, Penn State system. And this judge has ruled, there may be a place for learning about CRT. There's a place for diversity. This is an Obama-appointed judge. But she says it depends on the context. If you're telling people that they are inherently bad because of their color, that's against the federal law.
Hey, good for her.
Yeah.
Good for that Obama-appointed judge.
Yeah.
Let the record show.
That's right. That's right.
We just applauded don't say we're not bipartisan here.
That's right.
people.
We are very
It's called
bipartisan.
common ground.
We just
We have
applauded.
Common ground. That's right.
There's
Common ground.
areas of common ground.
That's right, brother.
Now-
All right, so, go ahead. Did you have something else?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Go.
One person who has lived a terribly oppressed life, knows the sting of racism, is Nikki Haley, the Republican presidential candidate. She has been through the ringer, and she knows all about racism, and she's going to tell you about it. This is Cut 9.
If you want to know what it was like growing up, I was disqualified from a beauty pageant because I wasn't white or black, because they didn't know where to put me. So look, I know the hardships, the pain that come with racism.
Yeah.
I don't know what
her parents came to here from India, right?
Yes.
So she's brown, sort of, in her skin color,
Yeah.
skin tone.
Not very, though.
That's not what you think about when you look at it.
That was kind of a weird. So she's saying that she had a beauty pageant. So they didn't know where to put her.
Yeah.
She wasn't white. She wasn't completely white. She wasn't completely black.
Beauty
So-
pageants today, they don't segregate.
Yeah, I'm not sure what she was talking
But now
about.
back in that, I don't know, how old is she?
50-something.
She's I don't know. They may have been something like that back then. I know when I was growing up.
That was
No, I
that
think-
was her number one evidence of racism.
Yeah, that's a real reach. But I don't. Maybe it happened to her. I don't know. That would be unfortunate if it did.
It probably did, but still.
Yeah, but that's a pretty weak example of.
She's 52 years
of
old.
suffering from racism. She's 52. Okay, I do remember. And I'm 60, and when I was in high school, this had been in the late 70s and 80s. I think I remember we had a white homecoming queen and we had a black homecoming queen for football. You know what I'm saying? So there was still some quote segregation.
Well,
but it wasn't. What I'm thinking about when she's describing right there, they didn't know where to put me in the beauty pageant. They may have segregated at that time. I don't know. They may have said, okay, we have blacks and we have
Well, when it comes to the evils of racism, there's lynchings. There's you can't eat at this lunch counter.
I know.
There's beauty pageants.
And beauty pageants, but we
That's
don't
right.
we don't do that anymore. You know, we don't. America doesn't do that anymore. We don't have segregated.
She thinks she's going to try to get a few more votes that way.
Yeah.
It's not going to work.
Not gonna happen. I don't think. All right. Well, listen. Thank you for joining us today, ladies and gentlemen. Whatever ethnicity, color you may be, background you may be, we thank you for listening to the program. Today's issue. So, on behalf of 5 White Guys, we bid you a good afternoon, and we'll see you tomorrow.
Well, you can stand where Forrest Gump stood on our tour Washington